Really, Chiron? Really? Why, Chiron? Why do you make me suffer so? Why must I keep you around? Why is it the one thing that I cannot accomplish that it's driving me crazy? And I am tired. And I have looked at it and I have worked at it. And then I went away and you keep coming up and I don't know what to do. Please, Chiron, please go away and leave me alone. That is Chiron. Really, Chiron? Because I am done. And then I'm not done. And then I'm done. And then I'm not done. And then I transform. Cindy. I am the modern day spiritual advisor. I use multiple modalities, including astrology, to help you on your path. Now, does everybody understand? Does everybody get that grief? Does it sound like something that you've been going through lately or trying to understand? Because that's why you're watching this video. Please let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up too and share this out so other people can get this message. So Chiron, it has the symbol of that upside down lollipop with that K, and it was discovered in 1977. Now, Chiron does not fit into the category of a planet or a comet or an asteroid or a star or nothing, because it's on its own. It is, and that's a true characteristic of Chiron. It doesn't fit any sort of norm. That's one of its true characteristics. Now, it's caught between Saturn and Uranus. And Saturn, if you remember, Saturn is that last physical planet that we can see. Uranus is after Chiron, and it is that more spiritual. So if we think about us, because we are the universe, right? If we think about us, Saturn is that last physicalness of us, and Uranus is that planet that wants to go outside the boundaries and go beyond, because it understands beyond and it understands not just the physical. That's Uranus. And so but Uranus immediately wants you to disclose everything, or to disrobe everything and just be free, where Saturn is strict and authority and organization and doing it right and having to do it in the physical, right, hard work, where Uranus is not. So they sort of you're kind of in that in between. That's kind of you, like that in between of, I am physical and I'm more than physical, but how do I get to that more than physical? Because I'm still physical, right? That's where Chiron comes in. That's what Chiron does. So Chiron is in that gravitational pull between Uranus and Saturn. So it kind of goes back and forth, and it's giving messages, and it's helping you understand, and it's helping you transform, and it's making you really look at it and overcompensate. And, oh, Chiron. So Chiron, like I said, is the gap between the message, is the gap or the messenger between Saturn, which is the physical, and Uranus, which is the spiritual and more, right? Uranus is like the gateway to the more, right? So Chiron takes about 3 to 7 years to move through a sign. And the physical characteristic of Chiron itself is made up of ice, right? So it's ice. And ice, remember, is a property of water, which to us means emotions, right? But because it's ice and not water, you can think of it as the more dense physicalness, lesser evolved energy, the more physical, raw emotions that we have. You know, that animalistic kind of emotion that we can have, that's Chiron. So, or the physical self. Now, Chiron, when it's exposed to the sun, will immediately turn into gas, right? So it bypasses water. So think of it this way. When the sun, which is our conscious mind, our ego, right? When the sun and our free will, our free will, when the sun is exposing Chiron, there's a transformation, and it's like boom, transformation. It doesn't go from water to gas; it goes from ice to gas, right? And so there's this transformation from our physical body, which is our heart, mind, our emotions, to our or lesser evolved aspect of ourselves, to this ethereal gas, right? This ethereal, energetic, spiritual, lighter selves, right? Which we all have both. We understand that, right? We're just trying to figure out the connection, how to get that. Well, that's where Chiron comes in. So think of it also this way: the conscious to the superconscious, bypassing the subconscious. For those of you that know that I'm a hypnotherapist and have seen me, I talk about that a lot. If we can imagine ourselves as Saturn and Uranus, like I said, Saturn is that very last visible planet. Yeah, it's the very last physical planet, which means the very last physical aspect of ourselves. Moving to understanding and incorporating Uranus and the outer planets, right? Which is everything beyond the physical of our energetic self and our spiritual self. So Uranus itself, like I said, is about releasing the physical, not having boundaries, being more than just what society says and this earth and physicalness, okay? That's Uranus. Understanding other realms, right? Being in that state of being. And so Chiron is the process or the messenger, a go-between of healing, acceptance, redemption, and liberation, eventually. So that's what Chiron helps us do. It helps us heal, and then accept, and then redeem, and then liberate. So, are we getting the picture of Chiron? Well, just because people learn in different ways, I'm going to give you the mythology of it. So, in mythology, Chiron was a centaur. So he was half man and half animal. Half man, meaning that spiritual self, half animal, meaning the physical self, right? So he had both qualities: the man side, which was the civilized, extremely intelligent, eager to learn, very refined. And then he had the animal side, that raw, that ego, the animalistic, that no forethought, just kind of wanting to be safe and comfortable kind of thing, right? And so he didn't fit in with normal society. He wasn't accepted and didn't fit in. Wasn't accepted. He just didn't fit. He didn't quite fit in with the humans, and he didn't quite fit in with the other centaurs. So he lived outside of society on his own as an immortal demigod. And he became highly advanced in archery, in music, in medicine, in astrology, in prophecy. He was a healer, he was a mentor, he was a teacher. And somewhere along the lines, the story goes, that he was wounded through no fault of his own, and in his leg by a poison arrow. And this was a very painful and sad situation, because he was such a kind individual, right? But although he was a healer, and he was probably one of the best of his time, he couldn't heal himself. And so he searched out Perseus, who was also dealing with the same sort of being in pain and suffering. And since he was already suffering, he went to Zeus, and he asked Zeus to give him Perseus's suffering and pain, because he was already suffering. And so Zeus was so impressed that he released Chiron and made him a star in the heavens, right? And so that's how the story goes. So that's the mythology. And so, so what does Chiron mean to you in your chart, right? Well, Chiron is called the wounded healer because although he was able to heal everybody else, he wasn't able to heal himself. So in your chart, Chiron will be placed where you will feel wounded. That's where it's placed. But you will almost feel like it, so it'll almost feel like an old wound. It will feel like an incurable wound. It will not go away. Now it's your job, our job, to process this area of our life where it's placed in our chart, which means we accept it, we work with it, and through it. And what usually happens over time is that we overcompensate in this area of our life and we become the guru or the healer in this area. And this is the transformation, because this is the thing that most people don't realize about Chiron and working in it and having to deal with it and growth from it, is that it is that thing. It is that thing, that exact placement or wound or area of your life that we discover our greatest gift. And it's in that gift to help bring in healing to others in that area of our lives. So the house placement itself has to do with which area of life that it's going to be big in your life, where Chiron is going to, it's going to feel sore and it's going to feel wounded and it's going to feel incurable, right? And then the sign has to do with the way in which or how we heal. So that's, the placement has to do with the area of life, and then the house placement, and then the sign has to do with the way in which you heal, the way in which or how you heal, right? And so this is the thing. Chiron is very painful and sensitive and sore. And when you think about it, it's a source of a lot of bad memories and embarrassment and shame and self-victimization and self-pity and insecurity and vulnerability and weakness and hopelessness. And it's just something that you can't seem to heal from. And because of this, think about when you have pain. Because of this, and like this is lifelong pain for a lot of people, but because of this, you can become bitter and lash out in rage and be cynical and have anger issues and resentment. And so in order to process and grow, what you want to do is you want to take your pain and you want to let it inspire you to help others. And when you do that, because when you have that pain and you see other people in pain, you're like, I know how to help you because I've done this, right? When you do this, that's when your Chiron grows. That's when you're released. That's when Zeus comes in. That's when Spirit comes in and you're released. And so let's talk about your Chiron return. So Chiron takes about 50 to 51 years to return. And what that means when it's a Chiron return is that as it transits, it will return to the place of your birth, of the place that it was when you were born. And that's what the return means. And so it takes about 50, 51 years to do that. So usually in your 20s is when it'll square. And that's when you can, you'll start having like the spiritual awakenings. I mean, it kind of varies with people, but you'll start having, this is the time where you have the spiritual awakenings. Some of you, this is the time where you become aware and you learn to move and um, to incorporate the things that you're learning in that Chiron. And so from that 20s, when it starts squaring to that 50-51 mark, is where you learn to move your first and second chakra into your fourth chakra, right? Which is what I've been meditating on with you guys this week when I'm doing my meditations. So that's kind of what this is about in your chakra system, is learning to love, learning to accept, learning to deal with, learning to all of that from your first and second chakra, moving it up to your fourth chakra, where there's enlightenment, where there's unconditional love. And honestly, it's unconditional love of yourself as well as the world, right? So it's both. And so the last thing I want you to remember about Chiron is that it is in that particular area, it is in that placement or wound or area of life that Chiron is in for you, that you discover your greatest gift. So I hope you like this video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know if you like this new format. Bye.